Hello, hello. I am Erudi, and welcome to Moonskull. If you are looking for tales of horror, the paranormal, sci-fi, and the unexplained, then you are in the right place. Tonight, we have a story that will send shivers down your spine. It's about Grace, a young woman whose life was forever changed by the secrets lurking within her family home. Grace spent her formative years in a house that seemed ordinary on the surface, but beneath its facade of normalcy lay a darkness that Grace could feel in her bones. She never quite felt alone in the house, even when she was by herself. And what she experienced within those walls would change everything. But before I tell you Grace's story, let me show you how you can show us your support. Please help us in our journey to bring the paranormal, sci-fi, horror, and unexplained to you by going to the video description below, clicking on the link, and leaving a tip. Thank you. Grace's story is woven within the walls of her childhood home, a place that held secrets far darker than its unassuming facade suggested. Growing up in this house, Grace was no stranger to the paranormal. Alongside the spirits that seemed to inhabit every corner, there was one presence that stood out among the rest. A man whose lingering presence would haunt Grace for years to come. While Grace didn't see him often in her younger years, his presence became more pronounced as she grew older. He would watch her, his gaze following her every move, whether she was cleaning or simply sitting in her room. Despite the unease his presence brought, Grace never felt directly threatened by him. It was more of a peculiar sensation, a feeling that someone was always there, just out of sight. Nighttime in Grace's home was a different story altogether. The once quiet halls would come alive with strange sounds, from eerie footsteps to inexplicable thuds against her bedroom door. There was an unsettling heaviness in the air, a palpable sense of unease that seemed to seep into every corner of the house. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, lurking just beyond the reach of Grace's understanding. And then there was the shadowy figure that would appear in Grace's bedroom at night, a dark mass that seemed to defy the laws of nature. It would loom over her, its presence casting a chill that seeped into her bones. Grace tried to rationalize it, convincing herself that it was just a trick of the light. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more sinister at play. It wasn't until Grace was older that she learned the truth about the man who haunted her home. Her father revealed that he had taken his own life within those very walls, hanging himself in the same room where Grace had once attempted to end her own life. It was a revelation that sent chills down Grace's spine, casting a new light on the specter that had haunted her for so long. Despite the darkness that surrounded her, Grace found solace in the presence of the man. In a house filled with pain and loneliness, he became an unexpected source of comfort, a silent guardian in the shadows. But it wasn't until one fateful night, when Grace was alone in her room, that she truly came face to face with the man who had haunted her for so long. As she stood in the darkness of her bathroom, the clock ticking ominously towards 1:25 a.m., Grace felt a chill run down her spine. And then, as if from nowhere, she heard it. A whisper so faint it could have been mistaken for the wind. "I'm sorry," it said, the words hanging in the air like a mournful lament. Grace's heart pounded in her chest as she realized that the man was standing right behind her, his breath hot against her neck. Terrified, Grace fled from the room, seeking refuge in the arms of her boyfriend. But even as she clung to him, she couldn't shake the feeling that the man was still there, watching her from the shadows. The following night, a sense of remorse gnawed at Grace's conscience. Despite the terror she had felt, she couldn't shake the feeling of empathy towards the tormented spirit that had haunted her. As someone who had grappled with the thoughts of self-harm, Grace couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the man who had taken his life within the walls of her childhood home himself. And so, as the clock struck 1:25 a.m., Grace summoned the courage to confront the lingering presence that had haunted her. With trepidation coursing through her veins, she ventured out into the darkness of the hallway, her heart pounding in her chest. And then, in a moment of quiet desperation, she whispered into the void, "I forgive you." Then she fled back to the safety of her room. As she lay awake in bed, her mind was awash with conflicting emotions. Grace couldn't help but wonder about the man who had whispered in her ear. Why had he apologized? And to whom was his remorse directed? It was a mystery that lingered in the air, unanswered and unresolved. A year passed and Grace found herself preparing to leave her childhood home behind. As she stood in the front yard, surrounded by her loved ones, a sense of finality had washed over her. But just as she was about to bid farewell to the house that had been her sanctuary and her prison, her brother's fiancé uttered words that sent a shiver down Grace's spine. With wide eyes and trembling lips, Carrie, her friend, recounted a chilling encounter. A shadowy figure watching them from Grace's bedroom window. It was a revelation that sent a chill down Grace's spine, casting a shadow over her departure. And as she turned away from the house for the last time, she knew that its secrets would continue to haunt her long after she had left its walls behind. And there you have it, folks, another spine-tingling tale from the depths of the unknown. If you dare to brave more stories like these, be sure to subscribe to Moonskull and join us in our journey into the darkness. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.